Hi, I'm Darren Goebel. I'm in Chillicothe, Ohio at our crop tour location on the Brown Farm, and out here in the field seeing some things that we saw earlier in the spring kind of progress, and so come take a look. Now I'm standing in between the 1-inch planting depth here on the left and the 1.5-inch planting depth on the right. And the first thing I noticed coming into this plot is here in the 1-inch, we seem to be missing a lot of plants, and these are just plants that seeds that never emerged. We also, if we walk around in here, have a lot of rump plants, just like over in the 3.5, and you know that's just lost yield potential when we don't get our seeds up. Whenever we have rump plants all over the place, it's not really contributing to yield. And where we would have counted this plant early in the season as a plant that is there and there's population, he's not going to contribute to yield whatsoever. Okay, now we're in the split between 1.5-inch planting depth here on the left and 2-inch planting depth on the right. And I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but we have really nice uniform plants, and really on both sides. I did see one rump plant here on the 1.5-inch depth, but overall both of those depths ended up giving us, you know, really uniform plants. Okay, I'm standing in the split between the 3-inch planting depth and the 3.5-inch planting depth. If you remember in the spring, I said we're seeing more runt plants, more late emergers in the 3.5-inch planting depth than in the 3, and that's really super evident here. So you can see here's one of those rump plants, also with a real big wide gap where plants didn't emerge at all. You know, he's likely, not only likely, he won't put on any kind of ear at all. Here's another one. Right next to it is another one, and you can see this plant's just been shaded out its whole life. So there's a lot of those as we look in that 3.5-inch planting depth. All right, now here I am in our goof plate plot. We looked at this spring as well. We actually create plates that we actually drill 2 holes close together so that we'll drop 2 seeds, and then we actually block off holes so that we don't have a seed drop. And the idea of that is keep the population constant and just look at lost yield potential due to skips and doubles. And so you can see these 2 guys are really competing, and it's been very dry here in Chillicothe, Ohio. And so I expect this to have, you know, severely reduced ears later on as this thing starts to, you know, pollinate and grow, unless we start getting a lot of rain. Now, when we're missing a plant altogether, most people would say, oh, that's not so bad. It's not as bad as having a double. But actually it's worse, because we don't have any yield potential from that missing plant. We're not going to get an ear there. And if you duplicate that, you know, thousands of times across the acre, we're really losing out a lot of potential per acre. You know, some folks will say that the plants on either side will compensate, but with today's fixed ear hybrids, they compensate very little. We would typically say you'll get about 20% of your yield potential here with this missing plant from the 2 plants on either side. And so really you're missing 80% of that plant that's missing here between these 2 corn plants. Now, looking at our load logic plots, this is showing up really interesting. I caught this field at the right time. You know, plants develop at different speeds based on stress, and so you can actually see a little bit of a smile here in these plots right in front of me, or in these rows right in front of me, and you can actually see a few more tassels on either the right or the left of the smile, or of the dip in the middle. We actually are looking at the Momentum planter in load logic disabled mode, and this is very similar to other planters in the industry that are concentrating their load right in the middle of that planter. And you can see there's a little bit of smaller plants in the middle where the tractor and planter ran. Now, if we compare that, if we walk down and compare that to controlled traffic mode, we're actually pulling weight from the wings in and concentrating that weight in the center. And the idea here is for those people that are going to only drive in one place, we damage the soil and the crops just where the machinery runs, and everywhere else it gets to be optimized. And we can definitely see that we have an even bigger smile, even shorter crop where the planter and tractor ran here in controlled traffic mode. And that's exactly what we would expect, as that's a strategy that some farmers use to protect the yield in other portions of the field. You know, from a compaction standpoint, most fields get tracked at 80 to 85% from field operations when a controlled traffic system isn't followed. And so that's the whole goal here with controlled traffic. But we're definitely seeing where the planter did have an impact with these different settings. Now, the really exciting thing is as we move down here to this 16 rows, you can see that there is no smile. It's very uniform all the way across, and that's because we're in automatic mode where we're transferring weight from the center of the planter out to the wings, and we've pretty much eliminated that smile here in the field, and it's working. And so we're going to come back later this year and take yield. We're going to do a lot of hand sampling in the field, looking at the rows around the tractor tires, around the planter tires, and really get a good feel for what's going on, you know, row by row across the planter bar on the Momentum planter. Yeah, so some really interesting things going on here at our crop tour location in Chillicothe. I would say not things that we didn't expect, but really interesting things showing up and easy to see in the field, and things that affect our bottom line and ultimately yield. So I'm looking forward to this crop continuing to develop and to putting some ears on and to see what we're going to get from a yield perspective from these different treatments. Thanks a lot, and until next time.